I've chosen to do my presentation on one of the most amazing aspects of development, prenatal development and pregnancy. The first larger portion of my presentation will be spent discussing prenatal development. We'll go through the four major stages of prenatal development, which are fertilization, the germinal stage, and the embryonic stage, and the fetal stage. We will then discuss pregnancy as according to what the mother experiences in her first, second, and third trimesters. In order to better understand prenatal development, we must look at the members of the body that contribute to this process. The first members are the ovaries. The ovaries are responsible for storing all of the eggs a woman will ever have in her lifetime. Around adolescence, the body reaches an age of maturity, and the ovaries begin producing mature eggs that are ready for fertilization. This is called ovulation and is associated with the monthly menstrual cycle. A girl's first period is actually a sign that she has begun ovulating. The next members we look at are the fallopian tubes. The fallopian tubes are feather-like tubes which connect each ovary to the uterus. The fallopian tubes deliver fertilized eggs to the uterus, and the uterus is the final member of the female reproductive system. And it's the place in the body which is designated to carry the fertilized egg all the way from implantation through the end of pregnancy. As you can see, here's an example of the members that we just went over. The ovaries are the almond-shaped bundles on either side, the uterus is in the middle, and the fallopian tubes act as the connectors between the ovaries and the uterus. The first step in fertilization is ovulation. Ovulation is the process in which an ovum or an egg is expelled from the ovary into the end of the fallopian tube where it awaits fertilization. Usually this occurs on the 14th day of a woman's monthly cycle, but it can definitely vary. Once the ovum is expelled from the ovary, it can be fertilized. Fertilization is the union of a sperm and egg. Fertilization occurs when the single sperm penetrates a mature egg. This marks the beginning of prenatal development. The fertilized ovum then begins its journey through the fallopian tubes in hopes of reaching the uterus. The germinal stage covers the first 2 weeks of prenatal development. Within 36 hours of fertilization, the cell has merged the nuclei of the man's sperm and the woman's egg and has created a completely one-of-a-kind DNA, which holds the information that will determine everything about how your baby looks, its gender, and even some of its personality traits. This new cell formation is called the zygote. The cells continue to divide at a rapid pace as they move towards the uterus through the fallopian tubes and become known as the blastocyst, a ball of about 100 cells. This photo sums up the process by showing us the ovum on the far left side going through each phase day by day, including fertilization, when the cell divides, all the way up until implantation. The embryonic stage starts in week 3 and goes all the way through week 8. This is the stage where the most growth occurs in the shortest amount of time. The embryo's attachment to the uterus allows the baby to have access to the mother's bloodstream, in turn giving it access to the mother's nutrients. This is the most crucial time of development because it's the foundation for the baby's vital organs, bloodstream, spinal cord, and brain. This is also the most vulnerable time for the embryo as its development can easily be hindered by tetrogens such as drugs and alcohol. In his article titled Prenatal Development, Dr. C. George Bonry points out that the embryo is the most susceptible to defects due to tetrogens in the first trimester as the most crucial members of the body are forming. A specific member that is forming during this stage is called the neural tube. The neural tube is extremely important as it is the beginning of the baby's spinal cord and brain. The neural tube forms along the back of the embryo. The top end of the neural tube becomes the baby's brain, while the rest of the neural tube becomes the spinal cord. In her article, Fetal Development, Linda Vorvik came up with a really neat week-by-week list of major developments that can be seen during the embryonic phase. In weeks 3 and 4, all the baby's organs are beginning to develop, and some are getting ready to function. At this point in time, the baby is about the size of a poppy seed. In weeks 6 and 7, the arms and leg buds become visible. Eyes and ears begin to form, the heart now beats, and blood moves through the veins. The baby has exponentially grown in size and is now as big as a lima bean. In week 8, the arms and legs have grown longer and have hands and feet with fingers and toes. The brain is continuing to form and the lungs are beginning to form. The baby is about the size of a kidney bean and is starting to look more and more like a human than a tadpole. This slide shows us an embryo that's about 6 or 7 weeks old. If you notice, it has little eyes, arms, and legs, and if you look closely enough, you can see little fingers beginning to form on the hands. The fetal stage covers week 9 all the way up until birth. During the fetal stage, development slows down considerably and occurs at a much steadier pace. The brain undergoes intense neural developments from months 4 through months 9, and the baby gains the most weight during this stage. In his article titled Prenatal Development, Dr. C. George Bourget provides us with a list of facts that you see about the progression of the fetus in the fetal stage. In weeks 9 through 12, we see that the head comprises nearly half of the fetus's size, and the face is well formed. The eyelids are closed and will not reopen until about week 28. The tooth buds for the baby's teeth appear. The genitalia are now clearly male or female, and the baby is about 3 inches long and weighs approximately 1 ounce. Next are weeks 13 to 16. Although the skin on the fetus is almost transparent, fine hair develops on the head. The fetus makes active movements, including sucking, which leads to some swallowing of amniotic fluid, and the baby is about 6 inches long. During weeks 17 to 20, the eyebrows and eyelashes appear, and nails appear on fingers and toes. The baby is now 8 inches long. At weeks 21 to 24, the baby is about 11.2 inches and weighs about 1 pound. All the eye components are developed, footprints and fingerprints are forming, and the fetus now has a startle reflex. In weeks 25 to 28, the baby is about 15 inches long and weighs approximately 2 pounds. During these weeks, we see rapid brain development. The nervous system is developed enough to control some of the body functions, and the eyelids open and close. A baby born at this time may survive, but the chances of complication and death are really high. In weeks 29 to 30, the baby is 15 to 17 inches long and weighs about 4 pounds. These weeks see further development towards independent life. There is a rapid increase in the amount of body fat, and the fetus begins storing its own iron, calcium, and phosphorus. The bones are more fully developed, but they're still really soft and pliable. There are rhythmic breathing movements present. The fetal body temperature is partially self-controlled, and there is an increase in the central nervous system control over the body functions. In weeks 33 to 36, the baby is almost ready. It's about 16 to 19 inches and weighs anywhere between 5 to 6 pounds. The little body hairs begin to disappear, and a baby born at 36 weeks has a very high chance of survival. Weeks 37 to 40, the baby is about 19 to 21 inches long, 7 or 8 pounds, and the fetus is considered full term. It fills the entire uterus, and its head is the same size around as its shoulders. The mother supplies the fetus with the antibodies it needs to protect itself against disease. A very important element of the fetal stage includes the age of viability. At month 7, the baby has a chance of functioning as a healthy baby if born prematurely, but there are a lot of complications with premature births. Even though a baby has a chance of survival, time in utero is really crucial to healthy development. The baby can gain up to 5 pounds in the last 2 months of pregnancy, and the baby's brain develops all its little folds that hold information from 7 months to 9. Now that we've finally made it through prenatal development, we can start to talk about pregnancy. Pregnancy can be divided into 3 stages known as trimesters. The first trimester consists of weeks 0 to 12. The second trimester is weeks 13 to 28, and the third trimester are weeks 29 to 40. The first trimester is often marked by morning sickness, which is caused by an increase in the hormones estrogen and progesterone. The body produces these hormones to accommodate the baby. The first trimester is also the trimester in which miscarriages often occur. This is because if the body recognizes that there's a defect in the embryo, it tries to dispose of it itself before the baby would grow to full term and it couldn't function outside of the womb. This is also one of the reasons that we do have such a low rate of birth defects. The second trimester is often referred to as the honeymoon trimester because the mother usually ceases to experience morning sickness and becomes very closely connected to the baby. A really interesting study was done and was written about in an article called Maternal and Paternal Attachment by Rigetti P. Alfonso. He said that during the second trimester, there is an intensification of attachment because of things like the mother finally showing, being able to feel the baby move, and other different events like that. The beginning of the second trimester also marks the point in time when the most pregnancies are considered safe and the chance of miscarriage goes down dramatically. Usually if there's a defect, it'll get taken care of in the first trimester, so babies in the second trimester often have a much more higher chance of being carried full term. During the second trimester, the mother begins to show and feels like she's pregnant and not just chubby. The third trimester is very commonly known as the nesting trimester. This is because the mother is getting ready to have her baby and really needs to just get things ready so that the baby has a nice welcoming home and family to be part of. During this trimester, it's very, very uncomfortable due to the size of the woman's belly and as well as the tension that the pregnancy can cause on her back. In closing, I'd like to quote my mother-in-law who had 6 children, and she said that the third trimester is pretty much as miserable as it is so that the mom is ready to have her baby, and regardless of the pain and the anticipated dreaded delivery, it really prepares her to hold that baby in her arms and go through whatever it takes to get there, and I think that's pretty great advice. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I got so many resources offline in the form of articles and pictures and even a documentary by the National Geographic. Please feel free to look at my resources in the following 2 slides. Thank you very much.